Hey guys, it's the Mad Master here. I thought I'd do another quick video today about some things I've been thinking about. And I've been watching a lot of videos, reading books over the past, 6 months to a year about this subject. And it's kind of this video is kind of a sequel to my previous video about feminism, where I discussed the issue of patriarchy. I have a very complicated, nuanced position on that. I think, just as a note, I think there is a patriarchy in place in a certain way, but the problem with attacks on patriarchy is they just come from a vacuum of social constructionism, which is actually, and other theories, postmodernism, all this shit. They actually come from that. So that's actually the subject of this next video, is social constructionism. So just like fucking around with lighters and blowing stuff up. But anyways, social constructionism is the idea that aspects of our society or aspects of people or their behaviors or attitudes are constructed by society. Now, it really doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. It's really kind of vacuous as far as reasoning, because rationally you can say, okay, society causes something, but what caused society to cause it? It's like the chicken or the egg, which comes first. And that's my real problem with a lot of the feminist beliefs about social constructionism. And some of it, comes from Marxism or Hegel. Some of these philosophers in the past that talked about some of the stuff, and some, Foucault, the postmodernists and stuff. They just, I've been reading a lot about this. I'm not really an expert in it at all, but I'm trying to absorb as much as possible. But the premise is basically that, for example, when men have a certain attitude towards women, or they look at things in a certain way about gender, it's all socially constructed. Now, that is just such a fallacious assumption about reality that I don't even know where to start, in a way. I think the problem is that people want to jump to these conclusions about what causes something without looking at science. There's a lot of evolutionary biology in place that talks about the differences between men and women that kind of we as humans mirror a lot of the time. Now, there's an equal number of things that humans have that aren't in the animal kingdom, but that's one of the things that bothers me about the social constructionist viewpoint. So feminists would want you to believe that men being visual, men having certain attitudes or being a little bit more aggressive, or women being more passive and all this stuff, as a general rule, is all because of society influencing people. Not just why did society influence people to do that? That's my question, and nobody seems to want to answer this question. Their political agenda is far more important than actually reason or logic. And I truly do believe there is a mixture of social construction, what you want to call it, social constructionism or innate natural behaviors that are in humans. So really, which comes first, I don't know. So there's also a few books by Daniel Goleman, like Social Intelligence or Emotional Intelligence. I think I read half of Social Intelligence. And, there's a lot of brain chemistry that gets developed early on with empathy and just the way humans are, that, a lot of things are socially constructed, but we don't really know where it came first or it came up. So for people like, these feminists to assume that things are all socially constructed, it's just a lie. I don't know. I mean, it's like creationism. I mean, it's that bad as far as logic and rational thinking, in my opinion. And that's basically why I am majorly opposed to a lot of their viewpoints. And I would never call myself a feminist because they believe in this thing. And it's not a matter of that they always mention it in every article or every blog or every video or every argument at a university, but it's assumed, or it's implicit in their behavior, or implicit in what they think. For example, when they're talking about, like, men objectifying women, and it's like this, or sex role or gender roles being, just some of these articles that attack men for certain behaviors. You're like, well, why are they? Well, if it's, and that's not excusing what men do sometimes, but if it's all, why don't you explain why this happens? Oh, wait, the way that they talk about it, the words they use imply that it's socially constructed. It's just one day, millions of years ago, a group of evil men went inside a cave and decided, it was just a small group of men, decided that women would be oppressed for millennia. Now, that sounds ridiculous. It actually reminds me of the book, the Illuminatus trilogy, sort of. They talk about this Atlantis, like this conspiracy between these people and stuff. So that's a great book, by the way. You should check it out. So that idea is just it's absurd, and I just think that that's really what they're getting at is, if things are all socially constructed, there has to be some kind of time that this behavior influenced someone. Someone came up with it first. It's one of the things that or it developed in the way that it had to develop in a way that was consciously participated by someone. Is their implicit, that's their implicit idea, I think, with their whole thing. Now, whether or not social constructionism is natural because humans are, evolved to do this, to develop these beliefs and behaviors. I mean, that's just basically my problem, is that there's this changing goalpost, and there are these ideas that society influences everything, and it's all this evil patriarchal thing that developed. So, and I really don't get it as far as why a person would believe in that. I was watching a video by Secular Talk where he said, he used to be a belief that everything was nurture, and now he's like kind of 50-50, about nature and nurture. So the debate is nature versus nurture. Now, how does that take into account that people who are trans people have some of the same brain characteristics more often than not of their opposite sex? How does that take into account? And from an early age, if it's all socially constructed, if gender is all a social construct, how the fuck does that happen at such a young age? Oh, does it take a year for them to see women and men and get this role in, their first year of, being an infant? Then they're totally influenced by society. It's just absurd. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here, is that it's just ridiculous that people would actually believe in this, because what amounts to kind of a conspiracy theory of these unknown conspirators that came up with this whole idea of this evil patriarchy, and women are oppressed, and men and women are defined by these roles and all this stuff, without taking into account body size differences in evolving into what we are. Like, for example, in the wild or whatever, hunter-gatherer societies, men are generally stronger than women. It's biologically proven. Of course, feminists may want to even get rid of that and call it patriarchal science. But, it's generally proven that men are stronger than women physically, and it's not socially constructed that way. I mean, women can work out they have to take testosterone, which is the natural male hormone, to actually get really big like men are. And as to deny that hormones even affect things in people, that's just fucking absurd. So that's another thing about the whole thing that's just totally falls flat. Anyways, back to my point about the hunter-gatherers, or, I don't know what happened with hunter-gatherers. There's the sex at dawn people. There's the Red Queen people. There's all these different schools of thought. So I don't like to assume one thing or another about, people in the past. But the fact of the matter is that somehow the sex roles or the gender roles developed independent of people's conscious awareness or society. It happened because of environmental factors. Maybe, men were more strong. So in certain climates and conditions, they had to do more physical things, which led to more power structures or whatever. But fucking feminists don't talk about that shit. They never do. That's the problem. They just attack, be ashamed to be a man, be ashamed to look at boobs or whatever the fuck, I mean, it's just, that's the problem with the whole fucking thing. And to conclude, this is going to be the end of the video, so I'm not going to go on about this. I just think, I want an explanation, and that doesn't make me a mansplainer, a man spreader. I'm a man spreader! Anyways, that's all.